Thank you to the Chamber for allowing me to be a part of this program, and thank you to all of you for showing up despite knowing you would hear a lawyer talk at 8 o'clock in the morning. And on that note, the statements you hear from me today do not necessarily represent the views of the Superior Court, the SLO Bar Association, MindBody, Vista Equity Partners, or my lovely wife. I'm all by myself up here. Next Wednesday, May 1st, is National Law Day. Law Day started on May 1st, 1958, with a proclamation by President Eisenhower to honor the role of law in the creation of the United States of America, as well as to honor the legal process and the freedoms that all Americans enjoy. Each year, the American Bar Association suggests a theme. This year, they have suggested free speech, free press, free society. Freedom of speech is the foundation on which all other First Amendment freedoms are based. Without it, the other freedoms could not exist. The purpose of free speech is to protect the minority, often unpopular viewpoint from being overpowered by the majority or by the government. The minority viewpoint needs to be heard because in the long term, it may actually shape public opinion. Over the years, the courts have clarified when and how speech can and cannot be restricted by the government. For example, provocative or offensive political opinions are considered protected speech. However, true threats and obscenity are not considered protected speech. In fact, the Supreme Court has never interpreted freedom of speech to include obscenity. So what is obscenity? And as my mother-in-law will tell you, that's a wonderful question to ask at Christmas dinner. The majority opinion in a 1973 Supreme Court case, Miller v. California, produced what is known as the Miller test. This is a three-pronged test for state and local courts attempting to determine if a given material is to be considered obscene and therefore not protected by the First Amendment. This three-pronged test allows each community to determine what it believes is appropriate and what is not. It also accounts for the reality that what offends the average person in Manhattan, Kansas, may not offend the average person in Manhattan, New York. The government can only regulate protected speech in very specific instances, such as protecting public safety or national security. Freedom of speech does not grant you the ability to yell fire in a crowded theater, nor does it provide you the ability to say whatever you want without consequence. Conversely, the US government cannot curtail the ability of citizens to question, comment, or criticize its government. What is most important to remember about the freedom of speech is that it applies only to the protection of citizens against the government. It does not provide you protection from your non-government employer, from your friends, from your enemies, from your ex-wife or husband, from your current wife or husband. It is only from the government. Let's switch now and talk about freedom of the press. Freedom of the press is the right to circulate opinions in print without censorship by the government. Through case law, it has also established the right of the press to criticize public officials. In a 1971 Supreme Court case, New York Times versus the United States, a classified study which showed questionable rationale for the Vietnam War was stolen by a Defense Department worker, Daniel Ellsberg. Some of you may be remembering this case. It's the Pentagon Papers. The government sought to prevent the New York Times and the Washington Post from publishing additional parts of the study, arguing that publishing it would cause irreparable harm to America's ability to defend itself. In a 6-3 decision, the Supreme Court ruled against the government. Justice Black wrote in his concurring opinion 2 sentences which I think fully summarize what freedom of the press is about. He said, "In the First Amendment, the Founding Fathers gave the free press the protection it must have to fulfill its essential role in our democracy. The press was to serve the governed, not the governors. American democracy relies on its citizens having enough information to make good decisions and hold elected officials accountable. Citizens need to know what elected officials are doing or not doing so we can decide if we want them to keep doing the job we elected them for." In conclusion, freedom of speech and freedom of press are 2 fundamental elements of our Constitution and have shaped America into the great country that it is today, a place where the government cannot inhibit the people's voice or their ability to find out information, a truly free society. Now, I have a question for all of you. Please, by a show of hands, how many of you here believe in the Constitution of the United States of America? That's fantastic. I'm glad to see Mayor Harmon's hand in the air. That's wonderful. Now I have a second question for you. By show of hands, how many of you here have actually read the Constitution of the United States of America? That's okay, my friends. Thanks to your local bar association, we have pocket-sized constitutions right over there on the table. I encourage each one of you to please take one and read it. Have your children read it. Have your grandchildren read it. It is the fundamental document to everything that is great about this country of ours. Interesting, my wife is also an attorney, so we actually read it to our 4-year-old every night as a bedtime story. Yeah. I think you'd be really impressed with her understanding of the Eighth Amendment. I think you'd really enjoy that. Here in SLO, we celebrate Law Day with various activities at the Superior Courthouse, not only down the street, but also in Paso on May 1st from 5 to 7. You can find out more information on the flyer over there. I hope you all will come out, and thank you very much.